We're back for episode 14. This is the Deep Drive on the Ball Institute Network. I'm your co-host, Ahan Rungta, here as usual with my boy Max Goldstein. We're here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time until the end of the season, which is very nearby. And we're going to talk about the championship series that just completed last night, and that made me a little bit sad to an extent. And then we're going to preview the World Series, and it features the Dodgers, which surprises none of us, and it features the Blue Jays, which surprises a lot of us. So it should be a fun show. If you are listening on YouTube, join us for streams every Tuesday. After the MLB season is over, we'll be having more shows and transitioning fully into the NBA season, which starts tonight as well. And if you want all your content for MLB, NBA, and NFL, of course, where we're having a good season despite our rough week 7, as well as other sports, college sports coming as well, head over to the Ball Institute Discord. For less than $1 per day, you can get all your content. But Max, it's time to preview the World Series. How are we feeling about the kind of series we're about to get? Like, are we actually excited for a Blue Jays Dodgers series?
Um, I mean, I think it. I'm hoping for a good series, but as you said, it's not so surprising that the Dodgers, with all their talent, that they've made it. But I feel like almost everyone's gonna be rooting for Toronto, so I will also be rooting for Toronto. But yesterday, I was actually rooting for Seattle for you,
I appreciate your concern.
but that was a tough game for Mariners fans. I mean, the Mariners. It feels like the Mariners should have won, but the fact that they should have won doesn't really matter for the World Series.
I think the Julio Rodriguez screaming in the dugout while Brian Wu was getting interviewed, combined with Cal Raleigh saying it was a failure because we didn't win the World Series, it's just reflecting on the fact that this franchise is like the laughing stock of the one that has never made the World Series. And at this point, like given how much talent is on the team now, the fact that the standard is you win the World Series or it's a failure, like I think these are all completely reasonable emotions. It's the most invested I have been in a team getting eliminated that wasn't my Red Sox or my Nationals. So I certainly feel the pain of Mariners fans. Some of my best friends are Mariners fans, but a couple of my good friends are also Blue Jays fans. So ecstatic for them. I think it's good to. I mean, Andy says exactly how I feel. Like it felt like their opportunity to win a World Series slip away. I certainly think that if we got a Mariners Dodgers World Series, like this series was about to be so entertaining because the Mariners pitching is just like is a big edge over any other like American League team that could have faced the Dodgers in the World Series. I stand by the fact that, I mean, Max, you stood by the fact that the Yankees were a very, very good team when they got eliminated to the Blue Jays. I stand by the fact that the Mariners were the better team than the Blue Jays, the better roster. And we'll talk a little bit more about how the series went down. I think the fact that this series opened as pick'em on the sports books made sense. And it's a good time to just, I don't know, this seems like an obituary, but we'll get it out of the way. I mean, the Mariners, I mean, the reason, for those of you who don't know, the reason I was this invested, not just because of the fact that I love so many of the players on the team, but they were my only pennant future of the season. And I placed it at the All-Star break, and we've talked about it in former episodes that I stand by the fact that getting the Mariners at plus 800 to win the pennant at the All-Star break was a great bet. And it's not just because it was so close to cashing, but because I felt like they should have won this series. They were the better team. The Mariners had the rest disadvantage coming into the series. I thought they were the better team, and therefore the pick'em price at which it opened was completely reasonable because of the rest advantage that the Blue Jays had. The Mariners, throughout the playoffs, really, they've been doing the opposite of what should be done. They beat Tarek Skubal multiple times, which shouldn't happen. They they lose the Tigers bullpen game, which shouldn't happen. Like, you shouldn't lose the game where they're throwing out Kiter Montero. And I mean, you can agree with that too.
Cater Montero.
Yeah, I mean, you can agree with my thoughts to a certain extent. And realistically, they should not have won game one. All right, game one was supposed to be the most unwinnable game of the series against the Blue Jays, given that it was Bryce Miller versus Kevin Gausman, and that they threw everything they had in the tank into game five. The Mariners get the job done in game one and game two. They take both the road games. I stand by this no matter what the circumstances. In a basketball game, if you're up like 20 points and you in the fourth quarter and you blow a lead that big, they say, all coaches will tell you, you can't lose that game. I don't care if officials, made incorrect calls. You can't blame the refs when you blow a 20-point lead. When you have a 20-point lead, you get to run clock, stuff like that, right? With baseball, I feel like when you have a 2-0 series lead and you have the better pitching staff, like, that is such a huge edge that you've given yourself.
And it was going back to Seattle.
But I mean, we could also, like, I mean, you wrote an article a few weeks ago about like home field stuff and like K-rate and offense when it comes to home fields. But me and my Mariners fan friends joked after Seattle went up 2-0 that now they're about to lose the 2 home games. I did not mean to manifest it, but Seattle has been doing the thing where they just don't do what you expect of them at all. When you're up 2-0 in the series, you have the better pitching staff, and you look at the schedule and you're like, man, the Blue Jays are going to have to throw out Max Scherzer in 2025. The Blue Jays may have to pitch Chris Bassett, and they come into your house, or Max Scherzer came into their house, dominated them, and then last night in Game 7, Chris Bassett pitched a 1-2-3 inning. Like, this is diabolical to me, and none of this even accounts for what went down in Game 7. I want to get your thoughts first on just the general, like, manager battle we saw in this series. I think we both agreed that both Dan Wilson and John Schneider did some questionable things. What were your general thoughts on Game 7?
Well, it was an exciting game, but first of all, I was very confused when the Blue Jays intentionally walked Cal Raleigh with the bases empty and there were 2 outs. I feel like if you're Cal Raleigh, you almost can't even believe it. Like, there's just no way it's a good idea to put someone on when I think Josh Naylor was hitting behind Cal Raleigh. Like, he's a pretty good hitter. Unless it was like a pitcher, then when you're winning, you don't want to give the other team base runners. So Gausman then walked Josh Naylor. He got out of the inning. And then at the very end, Julio Rodriguez was up. So I was thinking, like, maybe if you face Cal Raleigh and get him out, then you don't even need to face the Mariners' second best hitter. So I don't understand why these managers are so in love with just handing people walks. And then the biggest thing, which I know you're probably upset about, was I don't know how Dan Wilson. It's not easy to use. Like, I get that, like, managing a bullpen's kind of tricky and it's hard to know when the biggest moment's going to be. But once there was runners on third and second with 1 out when you're up by only 2 runs in the 7th inning with George Springer coming up, I feel like you had to have Andres Munoz warming so that he could come in to face Springer in such a huge moment in the game. And then it was Eduardo Bizarro, who's pretty good, but Munoz is much better than him. So, like, if you're the Blue Jays, you're ecstatic that you don't need to face the ace reliever, and then the rest was history.
I mean, there is a lore of the Blue Jays being at home and the opposing team. It's happened 3 times in notable moments now, and most notably the Zach Britton moment, where you don't use your best reliever at Rogers Center when you need to. Shout out Ubaldo Jimenez. But, I mean, I completely agree with you that both of these managers did some questionable things this series. I will focus a little bit on the stuff by Dan Wilson. But I think the The intentional walk of Cal Raleigh, I can justify that because it was Kevin Gosman and Cal Raleigh's. I know it's a small sample size, and it's not even Kerry Carpenter, George Kirby sample size, but Cal Raleigh's tortured the Blue Jays a lot. He's had multiple career home runs off Kevin Gosman. I can understand that. And also, like, Josh Naylor's had a great playoffs, but at the same time, like, you don't view Josh Naylor necessarily as nearly as much of a power threat as Cal Raleigh. And even these playoffs, Josh Naylor's hit a couple of home runs, but you kind of feel like if Josh Naylor hits a double in the gap to score Cal Raleigh, like, you could live more with that than allowing Cal Raleigh to get a fastball right down the middle. I understand it. I do think mathematically the better EV thing to do by a small amount was probably pitching to Cal Raleigh.
I think it's by a large amount. There's no way, like, if it was a man on second, 2 outs, maybe then you could justify it. Like, there's a base empty, but, like, I don't think you just put when you're up by like 2 runs. I think they were up by what was the score then?
It was 3-1.
It was 3-1. So I can't understand, like, just putting a guy on, like, if it was a pitcher, like if they had to like replace Naylor and it was some pitcher and there was no hitters available, fine. But like, Josh Naylor is actually someone that's probably gonna put the ball in play, and if I just think, like, kind of like I always with the NFL, I'm always saying, like, you should go for it on 4th down, like if it's 4th and short. Like, I would say in baseball, like, you should almost never intentionally walk someone, and I'm pretty sure the math would agree with that. Like, putting base runners when you're pitching, you don't want to put people on base unless it's putting you in a better spot to win the game.
Which I understand, and I think it's more of a PTSD thing for John Schneider, and it's kind of like the optics of, like, I don't want to let Cal Raleigh beat me because I can get fired for that. Which is not necessarily the right thing to do. In this case, that decision worked out, and it magnifies the issue for the Mariners in multiple of their losses. I'm going to go back to Game 6 because there were 3 double plays in 3 consecutive innings to let Trey Yesavage get out of the jam. That's not really something the Mariners can control. If you put the ball in play and you hit it hard, you can't. Baseball is a difficult sport. It's not like you can avoid hitting into double plays when you're in danger of hitting a double play. That's not reasonable to ask of a team. What is reasonable to ask of a team is don't make base running errors and fielding errors, ones that you weren't making before you were up in the series, right? And it seemed like the Mariners were mentally so overwhelmed from having a series lead that they just gave Game 6 to the Blue Jays. It seemed like from the first inning that game was going to the Blue Jays. And when you're up 3-2 in a series, and after the first inning, you're starting to think, yeah, it looks like we're going to have to play Game 7. That's a bad omen, right? So there's no giveaways when you're playing in the playoffs. Like, giving away a game is never excusable, and the Mariners gave away Game 6. So it was tough. Game 6 was tough to watch. Entering Game 7, it's still a winnable game, right? Like, it's new slate. It's basically a wild card game at this point. You have George Kirby and Brian Wu available to you. The Blue Jays have Shane Bieber coming off Tommy John surgery, and you feel pretty good about yourself. The Blue Jays were small favorites. Vegas generally is, over the long run, pretty sharp, but the Blue Jays were small favorites because, the public was going to be mostly on the Blue Jays, and they were. But to me, like, from a baseball perspective, you have an edge by having 2 superstar pitchers, 2 pitchers that I consider superstars, going, and the Blue Jays have Shane Bieber, and then may have to get some innings out of Chris Bassett, may have to get more high leverage outs out of Louis Varland. The Mariners put up double-digit base runners, and they only got 3 runs out of it. That was a problem, and it goes back to another decision that people are not going to criticize because it didn't necessarily, quote-unquote, confirm to cost them. Dominic Canzone had a really, really tough playoffs, and throughout the entire playoffs, I was in favor of starting Dominic Canzone against right-handed pitching instead of either Leo Rivas or Victor Robles. I tweeted about this after the lineup came out in Game 7. It seemed like a panic move to start Victor Robles just because Dominic Canzone had only gotten one hit the entire playoffs. It seemed like a panic move to start Robles. And you think about like the blind resume aspect of it. You can't scratch 162 games of work because you are in a one-game wildcard series, because the small sample sizes are not predictive. And if Dominic Canzone's like 2-foot foul home run opposite field was fair, if that ball stayed fair, Dominic Canzone would be starting Game 7, right? So just to think of like the optics of like they started Victor Robles because they were panicking about Dominic Canzone's bat, it worked out, and this is a decision I'm willing to criticize because I'm always process-based, not results-based. It worked out. Victor Robles walked twice, which, by the way, the Mariners did not make them pay for walking the 9-hitter twice. Victor Robles is a 72 WRC plus bat against right-handed pitching. Dominic Canzone this year was a 150, and these were in pretty big sample sizes. So Dominic Canzone has been the superior hitter in pretty much every aspect all season long. It seemed like a panic move to start Robles over him, and that was just the start of what I thought was a really, really bad night for Dan Wilson. The second decision that I did not agree with, and this one actually did end up costing them, was in the second inning. If you are, I don't care what the score is in the second inning, to be honest. If you're in the second inning, your sole purpose should be to maximize the expected number of runs you get. Because you cannot game for, what if it's a one-run game versus a tie game in the 8th inning? You have no idea how the next 8 innings are going to go. You cannot play for one run in the second inning. You have to play for the maximum amount of runs you can get. J.P. Crawford should not have bunted with first and second, nobody out. And he laid down a successful bunt, which, by the way, the Mariners have had problems with laying down successful bunts these playoffs. But he laid down a successful bunt, and all Rivas has to do is put the ball in play, get a run. Even if they had gotten a run out of it, I would have said it's the wrong decision. Even if Rivas had gotten a hit and they got 2 runs out of it, I would have said it's the wrong decision because they gave up an out. And it wasn't even that it was Victor Robles making that bunt, a 72 WRC plus bat. It was J.P. Crawford, who is a significantly better hitter. And by the way, J.P. Crawford next at bat got a double. Just for some added context, that giving away an out when you're not even up, you're only up 1 run in the second inning was a complete and utter choke by Dan Wilson. Or I believe it's actually tied. It was tied in the second inning, and he was playing for 1 run. And then finally, what you mentioned, Andres Munoz has to pitch the most important outs of the season. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Bizardo has been decent. Andres Munoz is an elite reliever. You have to let your best reliever. And there were some rumors that Munoz told Dan Wilson in the past that he prefers to be the closer. I genuinely and utterly do not give a singular F what Munoz has told Dan Wilson in the past. If you're a leader of a team and you can't let Andres Munoz know in advance, yo, bro, if we need high leverage outs against the best hitters in the lineup, you're in there. And if he can't accept that, you don't deserve it anyway. So that was the cherry on top to what I thought was a complete and utter choke job by the Mariners in a 7-game series where they were up 2-0 and they were up 3-2. They had the better pitching staff. And I would argue they didn't even – I mean, the Blue Jays have had the better offense most of the season, but the Blue Jays were missing Bo Bichette. They were starting IKF for multiple games. I would argue the Mariners and the Blue Jays were about similar caliber offenses overall. I liked that the Mariners had the better power upside, which is why I picked them for the pennant, why I picked them for the series. The final thing I'll say is this was a choke. And Dan Wilson's not going to get fired after 1 year. And I'm not a fan of scapegoating managers. We were talking about it on the NBA show yesterday. I'm not a fan of scapegoating head coaches and managers because of rough games or whatever. The players win the games, the players lose the games. But Dan Wilson had a really rough series, a really rough Game 7. The Mariners were the better team, and it's unfortunate that we get to watch the Blue Jays pitching staff against the Dodgers and not the Mariners.
Yeah, I feel like I think we're on the same page. And the one thing that I agree, like I don't know why JP Crawford bunted, especially because JP Crawford, like you said, he's a pretty good hitter and he also doesn't strike out much. So like if he grounds out to the right side, like fine, but maybe he gets a hit. And the biggest thing is like you can't even say, oh well, Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh were up next. Like Leo Rivas and Victor Robles, like why are you bunting with those guys coming up? Like
Yeah.
JP Crawford should wanna like try to score the runs anyway. Like you shouldn't trust those guys to do their job.
Yeah. And I thought that was as bad of a decision as the Munoz not being used. At the end of the day, it just comes down to, like, if I haven't said this yet, I'm sorry to Blue Jays fans. Like, all like credit to the Blue Jays. Like this has been in a sense a Cinderella story, which kind of doesn't. It seems anticlimactic to call them a Cinderella story because they have so many established good players on their team. It's not like they're the D-backs where Gabby Moreno was the best hitter in the world for a couple of weeks, right? Like it's this is objectively a team where if you look at the roster like 20 years from now and you saw that this team made the World Series, like you wouldn't be surprised. But also like the Blue Jays were not favorites to win the division. Many experts had them finishing last in the division. I had them finishing third, if I remember correctly. But I think I had them. I had them third. I had the Orioles second. Shout out to back when we thought that was reasonable.
Where did you have the Yankees?
I believe I had the Yankees winning the division, and then the Orioles second, and then the Blue Jays third. Then my Red Sox fourth, and the Rays fifth.
I can't believe what happened to the Orioles.
I also cannot believe. I knew their pitching was going to be a problem, but I did not think they were going to be the only American League East team to not make the World Series and face the Dodgers since 2018, by the way.
That's a pretty crazy stat.
The Orioles have 0 playoff wins in that span, while the Dodgers are now set to face 4. Yeah, Andy is an Orioles fan. I'm sorry, Andy. We'll stop talking about that. Yeah, I mean, full credit to the Blue Jays and John Schneider, despite making some mistakes this series, made fewer than Dan Wilson. I would say. I think the fact that he somehow outmanaged Dan Wilson is probably a big reason they're here. Vlad Guerrero Jr. Like if I have ever if I have ever disrespected any Blue Jays fan who told me that the Vlad contract was worth it, I'm sorry. The concept of the Phillies not having a ring or Bryce Harper not having a ring, I've advertised how much that hurts me. That Bryce Harper doesn't have a ring, and he is one of the best playoff hitters we've ever seen. Only 2 hitters have a better WRC plus in the playoffs since 2021. Number 2 is that is minimum 50 plate appearances. Number 2 is Adolis Garcia, by the way. Remember when he was great? And number 1 and number 1 is Vlad Guerrero Jr. So he has, I believe, a 225 WRC plus now in the playoffs in that span. Pretty significant sample size. I mean, just what a legendary run from him. And if I have ever underestimated or underrated Vlad because he had that one tough year, I'm sorry. I will sign the apology forms. But I do want to talk about the other championship series. There was another series that happened. I believe the Dodgers played a baseball team that they go by the Brewers. They weren't there, believe it or not. They did show up to the field. But remember when both Max and I said that the Brewers were not going anywhere in the playoffs because they were arguably the worst offense in the entire playoffs? Headliner, they were the worst offense in the entire playoffs, or at least they looked like it in the series against the Dodgers. Ernie Clement has had more offensive production in the American League Championship Series than the Brewers had in their series as a team against the Dodgers. Let's address the Brewers. I mean, we were right about the Brewers' offense. When you put out a lineup with little power upside and with guys that rely on hitting singles and stealing bases, it's not going to be enough for the Dodgers. I thought they would get a game. I genuinely did. Did not happen.
You thought too much of them.
I thought too much of them the same way I thought the Padres might win a playoff series. So this is me like underestimating how bad certain teams that I thought were bad initially were. But seriously, though, Brewers were obvious frauds all along. There isn't much to talk about them. I do want to bring up that they're obvious frauds all along, yes, but they're also like close enough to a contending situation where it's kind of sad that Freddie Peralta is on the trade block now. MLB, we know, has serious problems with trying to keep the league or trying to let the league have enough parity where teams feel like they don't have to sell off immediately after going to the playoffs. And I also want to use that same point to address it. If you're mad at the Dodgers for using their revenue for players, use that anger and throw it at your team. I wish my Red Sox cared about baseball the same way they did a decade ago. I wish they cared about baseball more than they cared about Liverpool. So I'm going to direct my anger at the Red Sox for not using their revenue on players like they did a few years ago. I wish they signed players to extensions like they used to. That was the organization I fell in love with that, did all the things right, but also used the revenue that they got from their great fans and put it into the players. I'm not going to be mad at the Dodgers for it. I'm going to be mad at my own team for not being the Dodgers. But also I feel like MLB has a problem with with not having, some sort of salary floor, which we've discussed in the past. But any general thoughts on the state of the Brewers?
Well, the Brewers, I think the fact that they got swept, and they were also underdogs, fairly big underdogs to win this series to begin with. Like, I'm always like annoyed with my dad. Like, you can't, like, he thinks that like you can, like, a team is as good as its record, but like maybe because of injuries or like certain players overperform or underperform. Like, even though the Brewers had the best record and the best run differential, they weren't actually the best team. And I feel like, I mean, they got swept. It wasn't even really close. And also, like, for the Brewers to do well, like, they need to not strike out so much. Like, fine, don't hit for power, but it's not even like they were putting the ball in play. And then, like, about the whole, like, salary cap and stuff, like, the Mets had this massive payroll and missed the playoffs. So, like, it's not as simple as, oh, spend a lot of money and you're going to win the World Series, because you have to spend the money on the right players. And also, it feels wrong to be upset at a team for spending money. Right? I mean...
And also, if you're mad at Dave Roberts for saying, let's ruin baseball some more, like, again, like, you're salty. You're just mad that your team isn't doing the same. And that it's fine to admit. As it builds character to admit when a team you support, a team you love, a team that, we all support teams for different reasons. I support the Red Sox because in 2011, when I was planning on moving to Boston, I was like, maybe I should pick up sports, right? And I'm like, this David Ortiz guy is pretty cool, right? And like this Daniel Nava guy is going to be a superstar, right? And I picked up the Red Sox because I just love Fenway Park. I love the fact that they were so passionate about winning. And then 2012 was my first full year of being a baseball fan. And that was the year that Bobby Valentine was the manager for the Red Sox, and the Red Sox were last place in the division. And that drew me to baseball, and it drew me to wanting a fan base like that to be a part of it and join the journey of winning, right? And just the history of the Red Sox, that's what drew me to it, right? It builds character to admit when the team you love and the team you're loyal to is just not doing what they should be doing to become a World Series contender. It's fine. It builds character, and you can voice your frustration. It's part of sports. It's part of being a sports fan. So I'm not mad at the Dodgers. I'm mad at the other teams for not taking advantage. You're right. The Mets and the Yankees have the opportunity to spend a lot of money and spend it on the right players. They did not build an environment where they got the right players, and oftentimes both of those teams have missed out on big free agents, even though they had the ability to sign them. because the teams didn't, or because the players didn't want to even go there in the first place, right? So the Dodgers, they got Blake Snell. Blake Snell had options, and he chose to go to the Dodgers. He chose to join a winning culture. He chose to join a team where he liked that the pitching coaching staff would help develop him into the 8 innings starter that he is. He's brought that up. He wanted the freedom to do that, and he found that on the Dodgers, right? So it takes more than just money, but the fact that the Dodgers have it and they have built a good culture helps, and it could be the reason they are on their way to the first baseball dynasty in a long time. So credit to the Dodgers. One other thing I wanted to bring up the Dodgers on the other side of it, the starting pitching, I brought up Blake Snell. They have absolutely dominated the entirety of the playoffs. If you were not impressed against the Reds, that's reasonable. If you're not impressed against the Brewers, that's kind of reasonable. But also, Blake Snell and Yamamoto go back-to-back 17 innings in 2 games of essentially perfect baseball. There's a reason Blake Snell and Yamamoto were both drafted when we did our starting pitcher draft in our top 10 last week. Blake versus Yamamoto as being the best Dodgers starter is a pretty good problem to have, a pretty good question to ask yourself, especially when the third best starter is a guy named Tyler Glasnow. And now the Blue Jays not only, their offense is going to get tested against them, but also the Blue Jays pitching staff, which is far inferior, is going to have to play a lineup where Tommy Edman and Max Muncy hit at the bottom of the lineup, right? So there's a lot of matchup issues. Shohei Ohtani, by the way, we have not brought up his name on today's show yet. Any thoughts on Shohei's overall playoff run so far and the fact that he backdoored the MVP in Game 4?
I was almost gonna actually pick Ohtani for my top 10. I think I would have put him 11 for 12. The big thing with him is we're not sure he can stay healthy, but when he's healthy, it's actually possible that he's the best starter on the Dodgers. The Dodgers truly have 4 aces. Glasnow would be the number 1 guy on most teams. And you could argue he's their 4th best starter. It's crazy. And then Ohtani, yeah, he can also hit home runs. He really hadn't actually hit well in the playoffs before the one game. I feel like he was almost looked human at the plate, but when he hit the 3 home runs, it's just a reminder of what he's capable of.
I certainly think there are questions to be asked about awards in general, but when you're giving out awards for a very short series, there's going to be controversy, right? In the NBA, some people thought Tyrese Halliburton should have won Eastern Conference Finals MVP over Pascal Siakam this year, or the year that Jimmy Butler won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I thought that was correct, but some people argued for Caleb Martin, which is, by the way, a wild statement to make, in 2025 if you're an NBA fan. But when you're in a short series, especially in baseball, where there's so much more variance and there's events can shift so much off games can shift so much off one event, right? It's certainly possible. It's certainly reasonable to disagree with who wins MVP or whatever. Awards mean more to the players than it does to us fans, because awards, they have contract implications, Hall of Fame probability implications, etc. I'm pretty sure Ohtani's going to make the Hall of Fame regardless, but it's pretty funny that the Dodgers were up 3-0 in the series, and Ohtani was not even a contender for MVP of the series. He just happens to put up the best game of all time, potentially, and definitely the best playoff game of all time by a single player, and gets MVP. And you can argue that, him doing that when the series was over a 90% probability of winning at that point, you can argue that him having that impact on a single game, obviously he won them that game, but did he really deserve MVP over, over one of the starters, whether it be Yamamoto or Blake Snell? I think he won that MVP partially because there was no standout hitter that they could give it to through the first 3 games. So it was still up for grabs, so to speak. But there is something to be said about backdooring MVPs when you've done nothing when the series was still in some sort of a limbo. I'm not going to say they got it wrong because I can't come up with a strong argument for someone where I can certainly say like, yeah, I'm confident this player had more of an impact. But it's pretty funny nonetheless that what if there was a hitter that had like in the 4 games hit like 700 with 3 home runs? I think they should have won MVP over Ohtani. But just something to think about. Any other final thoughts about the Dodgers Brewers series before we talk about why everyone is actually here?
Is everyone here because they want to talk about NBA props?
Oh no, I was going to say they're here to listen to our predictions for the World Series and our blind ranking, which I didn't advertise.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I think you're probably right that like Ohtani, like he could have pitched terribly and they could have lost, and they're still in a great spot to win the series. But and also with the most valuable player, like the word valuable is in there, so like anything a player did in Game 4, technically that's not as it's not as important that they play well in Game 4 because like they can get away with being not valuable at all and still win the series. But Ohtani, definitely that was the best single game performance by like a landslide because he pitched 6 innings and he didn't give up a run, I don't think. And he also hit 3 home runs. So, I mean, I get it. But
before we preview the World Series, I have a blind ranking for you.
Oh, yeah.
And I assume you're going to pick up on the theme very, very quickly, but I still want you to take a shot at this. So I'm going to give you 5 hitters, and all you got to do is rank them 1 to 5 blindly. You know the rules. Hitter number 1.
1 being like the best hitter?
Yeah, 1 being the best hitter and 5 being the worst. And by the way, we had so much fun with Marcellus Howard for our NBA show yesterday. And just the fact that we're able to draw a clip where he said that Richaun Holmes was better than Domantas Sabonis is pretty funny. So I'm going to keep doing these blind rankings. We need to bring back more blind rankings when we do other shows. But Max has done pretty well so far at most of our blind rankings. So let's see how he does here. First hitter I'm going to give you is Freddie Freeman.
I'm going to put him second.
Okay. Next hitter I'll give you is Bo Bichette.
I'll put him fourth.
All right. Leaving the 5 spot open. Interesting. Next hitter I'll give you is Mookie Betts. There's only one reasonable spot, Max. Please do your job.
He really is not. I'm going to look up his numbers this year. I'm tempted to put him third just because I'm not going to, though. But the truth is, like, I don't think there's such a big gap between Mookie Betts as a hitter and Bo Bichette. But Mookie Betts, we've talked about him a whole lot on this show. And, like, this year, we're talking just hitting, too. He was barely above league average as a hitter this year. And then in the playoffs, he's actually hit pretty well in the playoffs. But I'm going to put him 5, but I still think he's a good hitter.
Mookie Betts is going at 5. Next hitter I'll give you is Ernie Clement.
Oh. Well, I'll put him third, but he's definitely the worst on the list.
And lastly, what spot do you have saved? Number 1?
Yes.
Congratulations, you have saved the number 1 spot for Alejandro Kirk. So these are all hitters that are gonna play in the World Series, and just because we're gonna put that ranking, up in the short and have it edited by Andy, we're gonna have that ranking put up. I want to tell you how they are ranked in WRC Plus in the postseason right now. Ernie Clement tops the list at a 195 WRC Plus. I love small sample sizes, bro. It's so good for clip farming. Ernie Clement has a 195 WRC Plus right now in the postseason. Freddie Freeman has a 105 WRC Plus. Mookie Betts, who you put at, did you put him at 5?
I did.
Yeah, you put him at 5. He has a 128 WRC plus, higher than Freddie Freeman right now. Alejandro Kirk has a 107 WRC plus. And who's the other hitter I gave you? Who did we put it? Who did we even put it to?
Bo Bichette hasn't even played.
Oh, and Bo Bichette hasn't played. Right. So the lowest WRC plus of those names was Freddie Freeman of the 4 names that have played. But yeah, I mean, I would argue that this is the first blind rank where you didn't do a great job at predicting what I was going to give you.
I know. I did a very bad job.
But those are the 5 hitters that I don't want to talk about. And instead, I want to talk about some players that could have a big impact in this series, even though they haven't necessarily had their moment yet in the playoffs. And I know we were going to talk about the same Blue Jay, and I'm going to let you take the floor. Who's one Blue Jay that you're looking forward to in the World Series who hasn't had their moment yet these playoffs?
I feel like he's had some moments. He hit a big home run, and I guess it wasn't that big, but he hit a fairly big home run in Game 6. And he's a guy that he has a super strong arm, like throwing arm. He hasn't played in the infield, but in the playoffs, I don't think. But he can play third. And I'm looking at his playoff numbers now. He's actually been really good in the playoffs. Maybe people don't realize it because it's been overshadowed by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But Addison Barger is someone that I think he's like a good player, and I don't know if enough people give him credit. Like, he doesn't strike out that much. Like, in the regular season, he struck out like 24%. In the playoffs, he's actually striking out under 20%. He's at like 17.5%, and he has a 149 WRC plus. But he's someone that hits the ball really well. And I think like his expected weighted on base average was like 20 points higher than his weighted on base average during the regular season. And I have Addison Barger, one of my keeper league teams. I drafted him, and I know for a fact that like when I'm following the Blue Jay games, like I see, oh, Addison Barger flied out sharply to center field. Like, this is someone that hits the ball really well, and I think that he could be productive in the World Series. And probably the Blue Jays are still going to lose, but in the case that they win the World Series, it wouldn't surprise me if Barger has some major contributions.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to talk about Barger too, because I think the last time we talked about him was when we were talking about contenders and pretenders of like way back before the trade deadline. And one of the reasons I included the Blue Jays as a contender, I said, I was sticking to the construct that they were the best team in the AL East for sure. One of the reasons I thought the Blue Jays were definitely contenders, despite the concerns I had about their pitching staff, was because I was like, this lineup top to bottom is just nasty, and like people are not talking about Addison Barger. And then after that, people started talking about him because he just kept getting hotter and hotter. And then he actually kind of reeled towards the end of the regular season. If you look at his splits, I mean, he had a pretty rough August to September. And then he kind of just like was like the no man's land, like the kind of guy, the guy that no one really cared about or talked about. Then he kind of struggled in the first couple of games of the playoffs, and Blue Jays fans were freaking out because obviously they're going to in small sample size. They're like, why is he in the middle of the lineup? And then he, we bet on him, or I bet on him at plus 680 to hit a home run in that blowout game, and he was 0 for 4 to start the game. And then he hit a home run to cash the bet when the game was already over. That was great for me. But also, he ended the regular season as one of the best hitters in baseball by hard hit rate, by expected weighted on base rate, average, as you said. Bat speed, 93rd percentile. And, oh, by the way, 99th percentile arm strength. So, yeah, this is a really good player, and he hits in the middle of the lineup. And also, most of the Dodgers pitchers and all but one of their starters are right-handed pitchers. So every game that's not against Blake Snell, he's going to be in up near the top of the lineup. He's going to be most likely protecting Vlad in the lineup. So this is someone that could potentially have a big impact. And if you saw that he had a 150 WRC plus in this small sample size of the postseason, you wouldn't realize that he actually struggled a couple games. So he's right back in his groove. Speaking of left-handed bats, I want to talk about a left-handed bat that has been around with the Dodgers a long, long time. He's longer tenured than most, almost everybody on the Dodgers roster, and it's Max Muncy. The Blue Jays are a even more heavily right-handed pitching-based team. They essentially have just one lefty that gets high leverage innings at all. All their starters are right-handed. And not only do I think their starters are going to be in for a rough time against the Dodgers lineup, but also like if they expect a dominant start out of Max Scherzer or Chris Bassett in the playoffs, and if they're riding their pitching staff just assuming they're going to get quality starts out of them, I have bad news because it's not going to happen. Max Scherzer, like, shout out to him for having that moment against the Mariners. Like, I love Max Scherzer so much. Like, if he got another ring with another team, like, it would genuinely make me smile for him. But like, Max Scherzer is not a good pitcher right now, and even in the start where he dominated the Mariners, it was the Mariners letting him get away with a lot of traffic on the base paths. He didn't have great command, but his stuff was just good enough where he got through them. The Dodgers are going to give him a little bit of a harder time. And Max Muncy is someone that hits near the bottom of the lineup, but also plays the field and plays third base. So this is someone that's going to be in the lineup every single day. Tommy Edman was the big bottom of the order bat last season in the playoffs for them. He was the guy that produced out of the bottom of the lineup. Somebody from the bottom of the Dodgers lineup is going to produce because they're going to see so many strikes because you don't want to walk those guys to face Shohei Ohtani, to face Freddie Freeman, etc. Max Muncy has a chance for a huge, huge impact in the series, given that he's going to face so much right-handed pitching, and he's so patient at the plate. Like, now that he has his eyeglasses and he got his eye procedure done, he's seeing the ball really well. His plate discipline has been amazing. And he hit the ball really well against the Brewers, just like you said about Addison Barger. Even his outs were hard hit. And that infamous play of Sal Frelick saving a grand slam and it turning into a grounded into double play, that, by the way, would have been a Max Muncy grand slam as well. So he's hitting the ball even better than his numbers show, and he's going to get to face perhaps the weakest pitching that the Dodgers have faced in the playoffs so far. You can make an argument for it. So I like Max Muncy from the Dodgers side. I will be sprinkling a little bit on him to win World Series MVP, because if Tommy Edman can, so can Max Muncy. So Max Muncy is my guy. Final prediction, make the call. I think we're both picking the Dodgers to win the series. I'm going to take the Dodgers in 6 games. I think the Blue Jays this year, for the sole purpose of bringing this all back to the Yankees, the Blue Jays this year are better than the Yankees last year. Give me the Dodgers in 6.
I'm going to make the same prediction as you, which our playoff predictions haven't been great. So I don't know if it's good that we're predicting the same thing. But I also like the Dodgers in 6. And the Dodgers are the better team, and the biggest thing is what we've been saying, that the Dodgers rotation is so much better than the Blue Jays rotation. It's true. Like, the Dodgers rotation, like Kevin Gausman, I don't even know if he wouldn't even be in the Dodgers playoff rotation. Like,
that's crazy, but it's correct. Like, this is so nasty to look at. Like, dude, when the Dodgers signed Blake Snell, I was just like looking at a picture of like the 5 starters together and literally like feeling intimidated, even though I'm not gonna face them. Like, yeah. And Roki Sasaki is a closer now. Like, the Dodgers don't even need him to be a starter. Like, that's crazy to me. I don't know if it's good. Yeah, I don't know.
I agree with you. I think Dodgers in 6.
I don't know if it's good that we're on the same thing. You know what happened the last time we both had the same team to win the World Series. But I think we're in for an entertaining series at least. I don't think it's going to be as unentertaining as last year's World Series. The Blue Jays offense can definitely get to some of the Blue Jays or some of the Dodgers pitching. So I'm gonna have, and I'm probably not going to bet on the series outside of game to game and our Urfi system. I'm simply brokenhearted by my futures this year. It's not been a pleasant experience. I'm not used to my futures bets losing in general, let alone at such a high rate. I will probably sprinkle just a little bit on some World Series MVP long shots, just for fun. You keep those very light, and like you throw money that you would literally, like if you lost that money, it would not affect your life in any way, kind of thing. So you throw a little bit on those. I'm gonna drop those in the Discord the day before the series starts, but we're going to be back on for another episode, and hopefully, we don't see another sweep, and hopefully we're in the midst of an entertaining series by then. We'll see you all back for episode 15 of the Deep Drive. We're in the midst of the World Series. See you.